I was going out with my boyfriend today, but my children's father sent groceries instead of depositing his child support money. Now I don't know what to do. I was going to pay with that money today. My life is a constant act of juggling. I'm a single mother of two incredible children, Lucas, 8, and Mia, 6. Their father, Ricardo, and I separated 4 years ago. He is a good man in general, but he is absent-minded, reliable in important things like loving his children, but absolutely chaotic in the details, like punctuality or organization. Every first day of the month, he deposits the child support money. It is a fair amount, but it is not much. Combined with my salary as an assistant at a dental clinic, it gives me just enough to keep our heads above water. Every euro is counted, every bill planned to the millimeter. In the midst of this controlled chaos, Matteo appeared 6 months ago. He is my peace, my oasis. He is single, childless, with a stable career as a programmer. He understands my situation and never pressures me. On the contrary, he is always looking for ways to make my life easier. Often, when we go out, he insists on paying, saying that I already work enough. I, for my part, strive to maintain a balance. I hate feeling like a burden. So I insist on paying my share whenever I can, especially on our important dates. It gives me a sense of independence, of being his partner, not his charity project. Today was one of those important dates. Our 6-month anniversary. Matteo had made reservations at an incredibly expensive Italian restaurant, the kind you only go to once in a lifetime. We had been talking about it for weeks. I was so excited. It was a night to feel like adults, to escape my reality of bills and school schedules. Of course, a dinner like that was completely out of my normal budget. But I had a plan. It was the first of the month. Ricardo would deposit the child support in the morning, as always. From that amount, I had allocated a part for tonight. It was my contribution, my way of showing Matteo that I could also offer him luxury, that our relationship was one of equals. It was all perfectly calculated. It was my little secret, my surprise. I would pay the bill tonight. I would feel powerful, independent. It would be perfect. On the morning of the first, our special day, I woke up with a feeling of nervous excitement. While I was making breakfast for the children, I checked my bank account from my mobile, expecting to see Ricardo's deposit. Nothing. I did not worry. Ricardo is never on time. Sometimes the deposit arrives at noon, sometimes in the afternoon. It is part of his chaotic nature. My plan was still on track. I dropped the children off at school and went to work, daydreaming about truffle pasta and expensive wine. During the day, I exchanged messages with Matteo. He was as excited as I was. He sent me a photo of the shirt he was going to wear. I replied with a heart emoji and a can't wait. The anticipation was part of the fun. I checked my bank account at lunchtime. Still nothing. A small seed of anxiety began to sprout in my stomach. I sent a message to Ricardo. Hi, just a reminder about the child support. Thanks. He did not reply, typical of him. He was probably in the middle of a meeting and had not seen the message. I told myself not to panic. The money would arrive. It always did. I left work a little early to get ready. I had bought a new dress for the occasion, a small extravagance I allowed myself last month in anticipation of this night. While I was showering and putting on makeup, I tried not to think about the money. The night was going to be perfect. I would make sure of it. Just as I was finishing my hair, the doorbell rang. It was a delivery man from an online supermarket. I was confused. I had not ordered anything. The delivery man, a young, hurried boy, began to unload boxes and bags from his van. A lot of them. Milk, cereal, pasta, cans of tomatoes, diapers. My children no longer wear diapers, toilet paper, a massive shop. I told him there must be a mistake. He checked his device and confirmed my address and my name. It is an order from a certain Ricardo, he said. It is all paid for. And then I understood. At that moment, my phone vibrated. It was a message from Ricardo. It said, "Hi, 1,000 apologies. Things got complicated this month and I could not go to the bank. But so that you don't lack anything, I did a huge online shop for you with all the basics. It should last you a couple of months. I will deposit the rest as soon as I can. A hug to the children. I stood there in the doorway of my house, surrounded by supermarket bags, in my evening dress. I looked at the tower of toilet paper. I looked at Ricardo's message, and I felt the floor open up beneath my feet. There was no money, there would be no deposit. My plan, my surprise, my moment of feeling powerful and independent had all turned into a mountain of canned tuna and discounted cereal. Panic took over me. Mateo would be picking me up in less than an hour. We were going to a restaurant where a glass of wine costs more than my electricity bill, and I had no money, and worst of all, I had no idea how I was going to tell him. For 20 minutes, I stood paralyzed in the middle of my living room, which now looked like a supermarket warehouse. My brain was going at 1,000 miles an hour, trying to find a solution. I could call Mateo and cancel. I could make up an excuse, say the children were sick, but I hated that idea. I hated looking like the stereotypical single mother whose life is always a mess, and above all, I hated ruining our anniversary. I could be honest. I could tell him the truth, that my ex was a disaster, that my budget depended on his punctuality, and that he had failed. But the humiliation of admitting that, the shame of revealing how precarious my situation really was unbearable. Tonight was supposed to be about us, about being a couple of equals, not about my money problems and my unreliable exes. My brain, in its chaotic and impulsive mode, clung to a third option, a risky and stupid option, but one that would allow me to save the night, or at least save face. The plan was simple. Go to dinner, enjoy it, and when the bill came, fake an emergency, pretend I had forgotten my wallet, or that my card had been declined. Mateo, being the wonderful man he is, would pay without hesitation. And the next day, I would make a transfer, borrowing the money from my sister, or using my emergency credit card. He would never know that my original plan had failed. We would save the night, and I would save my pride. When Mateo arrived, I was already in actress mode. I opened the door with my best smile. He looked at me, dazzled. He told me I was beautiful. I returned the compliment. I did not mention the towers of canned beans I had hastily hidden in the kitchen. The dinner was a dream. The restaurant was as elegant as we had imagined. The food was exquisite. We talked, we laughed. For a couple of hours, I forgot about my panic. I allowed myself to live the fantasy. I felt like the woman I wanted to be, sophisticated, carefree, the perfect partner for the perfect man. And then came the moment of truth. The waiter left the bill on the table in a small leather folder. It was an astronomical figure. My heart started to pound. It was time for my performance. I took the folder with a confident gesture. I opened it, and then, as I looked at the figure, the reality of my situation hit me. The stupidity of my plan, the imminent humiliation, and instead of following my script, instead of feigning surprise, I just broke. I looked up from the bill and my eyes filled with tears. I could not help it. The stress, the frustration, the shame of the whole day overflowed. Mateo looked at me, alarmed. He asked me what was wrong, and I, between sobs, told him everything. The truth, I told him about the child support, about the deposit that never arrived, about the supermarket shopping, and I told him my plan. I confessed that my big surprise was to pay for dinner to feel like his equal, and that I had failed miserably. I told him everything, expecting I don't know what I expected. Compassion, understanding. He listened. He listened to my entire chaotic and tearful monologue. When I finished, he was silent for a moment, took out his credit card and put it inside the folder without looking at the bill. Then he looked at me and his expression was not of compassion, not of anger, it was an expression I could not decipher, a kind of quiet disappointment. And that was worse than anything else. The ride home was in almost total silence. I was still wiping away tears, feeling like the most stupid and pathetic person in the world. Mateo drove, his hands clenched on the steering wheel, his jaw tense. The atmosphere in the car was so cold I could almost see my breath. When we got to my apartment, I turned off the soft music playing on the radio. I needed him to talk, I needed him to scream, to tell me I was an idiot. Anything was better than that icy silence. I said, "Say something, please." He parked the car, but did not turn off the engine. He stared ahead, at the dark street, and then he spoke, and his voice was so calm it scared me. He said, "I'm not angry that you did not have money, Laura. You know that has never mattered to me. You could have told me this morning and we would have done something else. Or we would have come here and I would have happily paid. That is not the problem." I looked at him confused. If that was not the problem, then what was? He turned to look at me, and in his eyes I saw a deep wound I had not anticipated. He said, "The problem is that you lied to me." Well, you did not lie to me, but you were going to. You spent the whole night acting, pretending everything was fine, with the intention of deceiving me in the end. The problem is that your pride, your need to feel independent, is more important to you than being honest with me. I was frozen. I had not seen it that way. He continued. And every word was a blow. And the other problem, the bigger one, is that your whole life depends on the reliability of a man who is clearly not reliable. Your plan for our special night, your budget, your stability, it all depended on your ex doing the right thing. And when he did not, instead of turning to me, your partner, the person who is supposed to be your teammate, you decided to resort to deceit. What does that tell me about us? About the trust you have in me? And then I saw it. I saw the true nature of his disappointment. He was not disappointed by my lack of money. He was hurt by my lack of faith in him and us. I, in my impulsive need to project an image of independence, had excluded him. I had treated him not as a partner, but as an audience for my performance of a self-sufficient woman. I had shown him that in a crisis, my first instinct was not to lean on him, but to lie. I tried to defend myself. I told him I just wanted the night to be perfect, that I did not want to burden him with my problems. He shook his head, a sad smile on his face. "Being a couple is about that, Laura," he said. "It is about carrying each other. I have been offering you my help for 6 months, and you have never really accepted it. You always keep a distance, a barrier of pride. I thought that with time it would come down, but tonight I realized it will not. You would rather build a lie than show me your vulnerability. And I don't know if I can be in a relationship like that." He opened the car door. He told me he thought it was best if he went to his house that night. That he needed to think. I watched him walk away and the realization hit me with full force. I had spent so much time trying to show him that I did not need him, that I did not realize that all he wanted was for me to need him a little, and my attempt to be his equal had turned me into a stranger. It has been 2 days. 2 days since Matteo left my door saying he needed to think. 2 days of absolute silence that have allowed my thoughts to sour and transform. There was a moment right after he left when I saw things from his perspective. I felt the weight of my mistake. I realized my stupid pride, my lack of trust. For a few hours I took all the blame, but that guilt is too heavy a burden and my brain, in its chaotic need to survive, has found other places to put it. Was it my fault? Yes, in part. My plan to lie was idiotic, but did we get into that situation just because of me? No. What about Ricardo, the father of my children, the man whose absent-mindedness and lack of reliability created this crisis in the first place? If he had simply done what he was supposed to do, deposit the money, none of this would have happened. He is the true architect of this disaster. His incompetence put me in an impossible position. Why does no one talk about his irresponsibility? And Matteo, yes, he felt hurt. I get it, but is his reaction not also an overreaction? To break up a relationship because your girlfriend, in a moment of panic and shame, considered lying. Is that not a lack of compassion? He knows how difficult my life is. He knows I struggle for every penny. Instead of understanding the pressure I live under, he chose to be offended by my clumsy attempt to handle it. His speech about vulnerability and trust sounds great in theory. But in practice, it is a way of making me feel small, of reminding me that he is the successful one and I'm the one who struggles. I did not want to burden him with my problems because I don't want to be his charity project, I want to be his partner. And he, with his reaction, has shown me that deep down that is how he sees me, as the poor single mother he has to rescue. And he got offended because I refused to play that role. So now I don't know what to do. I'm sitting here surrounded by a supermarket shop I did not ask for, with the memory of a ruined anniversary dinner. My children's father has failed me and my boyfriend is punishing me for trying to hide that failure. I'm trapped. If I'm vulnerable and ask for help, I'm a burden. If I try to be strong and independent, I'm a proud liar. There is no way to win. Help. That is the word. Because Ricardo has put me in this tight spot and Mateo, instead of helping me get out, is blaming me for having fallen in. It is not fair. I just wanted one perfect night, and now it seems I have lost everything, and I cannot help but think that although I made the final mistake, it was the men in my life who led me to the edge of the cliff. Popular comments from Reddit. Anonymous user 1. Your ex did not fail you. He made sure your children had food. Was he irresponsible? Yes, but not malicious. Your boyfriend did not punish you. He told you that your inability to trust him is a fundamental problem. The only common denominator in this story of men who fail you is you. Anonymous user 2. He gave you the opportunity to be honest from the morning. You could have told him, my ex has not paid. Can we postpone it or can you pay? And he would have said yes. Instead, you chose to build a plan based on deception. He is not angry about your situation, he is angry about your character. Protagonist's response. It is easy to say from the outside. You don't know how humiliating it is to have to constantly admit that you cannot afford things. I wanted for once to feel that I was not at a disadvantage. Is that such a terrible crime? His reaction was incredibly insensitive to the pressure I live under. Anonymous user 3. The problem is not the money. The problem is that at the first obstacle, your solution was to lie to the person who is supposed to be your life partner. That reveals much more about you than any bank statement. He is not overreacting, he is seeing a giant red flag. Protagonist's response. It is not a red flag. It was a stupid plan born of panic. True love is supposed to forgive moments of stupidity, not use them to end a relationship. If he cannot handle a moment of weakness on my part, then he is not as strong as I thought. Update 1. It has been a week since the anniversary dinner that turned into a funeral. Mateo has been sleeping at his own apartment and our communication has been minimal. A couple of cold, logistical text messages. I need to come by to get my charger. I left dog food in the pantry. Each message was a small splinter of ice in my heart. I read the comments. People call me a liar. They say I have pride issues. It is easy to analyze and judge. It is harder to live in the shame of knowing you have ruined something good because of your own stupidity. And yes, I admit it, I was stupid. My plan was impulsive and wrong. After days of self-pity, I realized I had to do something. Words were not enough. I needed a gesture, a grand gesture that would show him that I had understood the message. So I came up with a new plan, a plan to show him my vulnerability. I spent the next few days doing something I never thought I would do. I created a PowerPoint presentation. Yes, a presentation. It was called The State of Our Relationship, an honest analysis. The first slide was a picture of us smiling from our first vacation. The title said, What We Have. The next slides were a brutally honest breakdown of my financial situation. I took screenshots of my bank account. I created a pie chart of my monthly expenses, showing how tight my budget was. Then, a slide titled My Fears. I listed all my insecurities, my fear of being a burden, my shame for not being financially independent, my terror that one day he would get tired of my chaotic single mother life. The last slide was called My Promise, and on it I wrote a single sentence. I promise I will never let my pride get in the way of us again. You are my partner, not my audience. Please, let me lean on you. Last night, I asked him to come over. I told him it was important. When he arrived, he was nervous. I asked him to sit on the couch. I connected my laptop to the television, and with my heart in my throat, I gave him the presentation. It was the most humiliating and terrifying thing I have ever done. I cried during the fear slide. He just sat there in silence, watching the screen with an impassive face. When I finished, I turned off the television. The silence in the room was total. I waited, holding my breath. He looked at me, and for the first time in a week I saw something more than disappointment in his eyes. I saw a spark of the tenderness I remembered. He told me it was unexpected, that he appreciated my honesty, that it was the most real conversation we had ever had. He did not forgive me. He did not say that everything was fixed, but he stayed. He did not go to his apartment. We watched a movie in silence, sitting on opposite ends of the couch. And when it got late, he took a blanket and lay down on the couch. He said he would stay, but he still needed space. It is not a victory, but it is not a defeat, it is a truce. My chaotic and corporate gesture has somehow opened a small crack in the wall of ice that separated us. And for now, that small crack is all the hope I have. Final update. A week has passed since the night of the PowerPoint presentation. A strange week of an uncomfortable truce. Mateo slept on the couch every night. We were polite, we talked about trivial things. It was like living with a friendly ghost. The hope inside me fought against the anxiety. I felt we were on the edge of a knife. We could fall on either side. The end came last night, not with a fight or a grand gesture. It came with a quiet and devastating conversation. We were in the kitchen. I was preparing dinner, he was reading the mail. He finally put the letters on the table and looked at me. He told me he had been thinking a lot over the past week. He started by saying that my presentation had moved him. He said that for the first time he had truly understood the pressure I lived under and the depth of my insecurities. He said he loved me for being so brave and vulnerable. My heart filled with a relief so intense I almost got dizzy. I thought this was the moment when he would say we could get through this, but then his expression changed. It became incredibly sad and he continued. But it also made me realize something terrifying, he said. I realized that for you to show me this vulnerability, a crisis that almost destroyed us was necessary. I realized that it took an extreme, almost theatrical gesture, like a PowerPoint presentation, for you to tell me things we should be able to say to each other over coffee in the morning. I looked at him without understanding where he was going. He sighed. Laura, I love you, but I'm a simple man. I need calm. I need direct and simple communication. And your life, your way of processing things, is a constant whirlwind. You go from an impulsive plan to a secret, to a breakdown, to a grand gesture. It is a cycle of chaos, and I'm not built for that. It exhausts me. What I have realized, he said, and each word was softer and more painful than the last, is that I cannot fix this, because there is nothing to fix. We are simply different. You need the drama to feel alive, to communicate, and I need peace to be able to breathe. I love you enough to know that I cannot be the man you need, he concluded. And I love myself enough to admit that I cannot live in a constant state of uncertainty, waiting for the next crisis or the next grand gesture. I need predictability, and that is something that you, by your very nature, cannot give me. And that was the final truth. He was not leaving me because of my mistake at dinner. He was not leaving me because of my pride. He was leaving me because of who I'm. My grand gesture, my ultimate act of vulnerability, had not won him back. It had given him the clarity he needed to leave for good. It had shown him the true nature of my chaos, and he had decided, with a heartbreaking calm, that he did not want to be a part of it. He collected the few things he had left. We hugged at the door. It was a farewell hug full of a love that no longer had anywhere to go. He told me, "You deserve someone who loves your storm." And he left. Now I'm here alone, in the silent apartment, and the irony is killing me. My desperate attempt to show him I could be vulnerable showed him that I was fundamentally unstable. My chaotic solution to a chaotic problem only created more chaos. I did not lose him because of Ricardo, or because of the money, or because of the dinner. I lost him because in the end he saw me. He saw who I really am, and kindly, quietly, he decided that it was not for him. And there is no PowerPoint presentation in the world that can fix that.